G'day everybody and welcome back to my Aussie Gardening Kitchen, Garden Edition. And I'm going to show you how to pot a lime tree, but this applies to all citrus trees, lemons, oranges, limes, etc. And as you can see, this one's heavily discounted, and my wife surprised me with this beautiful kaffir lime, which I don't have and I need. And yeah, luckily for me, look at that. Is that awesome or what? Now, it's looking a bit sad. It's been out in the weather at the nursery and it's in a pot that really needs to be changed. So here we go. Let's get it into another container. Now, one mistake people make when they're planting trees into pots is they try to get a really big pot. That way it's a one-time job. Get it in there, forget about it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. With trees like citrus, for instance, you need to have them in smaller pots and change a couple of times over the years as they get bigger into gradually bigger pots. That's because you need the roots to be able to be in a nice self-contained area where the water's going to get to it nicely, food's going to get to it nicely. Unfortunately, in a big container, the water can actually go too far down in a huge pot and it doesn't stick around with the roots and the roots can go dry. Have your tree in a pot that's a bit of a better size, a smaller size, where you can contain the water, but in soil that's going to let it drain, and with holes underneath that are going to let the water drain. So it's a bit of balancing act, and it all makes sense. It's a lot better for them, and it works differently to planting in the soil. So I really do recommend that you try to gradually increase your pots over the years, and it's going to make a lot of difference to your tree. Now this pot here is a bit bigger than I wanted, but my wife surprised me with this tree, but I've got a trick for that. So what I'll do is I'm going to plant this tree in the pot, but lower in the pot. Leave a bit of space up the top. I'm going to put mulch and stuff on top anyway. But what's going to happen is then in a couple of years' time, it's going to become slightly root bound lower in the pot. So what I'll do is I'll lift it up out of the pot, put some nice fresh soil in there, maybe give the roots a bit of a tease, replant it higher in the pot in this beautiful new soil that's going to get, and then that way I'm going to get two plantings in the one pot over the years before I need to move on to that bigger pot you saw before. Now if you've got the correct size pot, imagine this was a bigger pot, you can actually fill your soil in and go a couple of inches from the top of the pot, no higher with your soil. And there's no need for planting deeper and doing what I've done with this pot here. Now the reason you keep your soil a couple of inches from the top of the pot is you want to leave a bit of room for that mulch, and also you want to be able to water and have the water stay in the pot, not pouring over the sides. Being a citrus, the lime is going to need nice draining soil. And in my case here, I've got some beautiful garden soil that's mixed with my home compost, rotted down chicken manure for my chicken coops, and some perlite. That perlite is going to help with the drainage in the soil, and obviously that organic matter is going to help not only feed the plant but also retain a bit of the moisture, but not too much. So this combination is fantastic and works really well with my citrus trees. Now you can use a good quality potting mix. After all, it is a potting mix. So you can add a few things to that, like a bit more perlite, maybe a little bit of organic matter, but not much. And the advantage of a potting mix is that they're designed not to firm up and go hard like some garden soils can. Anyway, let's get this tree into the pot and see how I do it. So I've already mixed my soil, this beautiful combination that's going to drain well. And of course, make sure you have holes in the bottom of your pot for drainage. Now I'm just making a well in the middle of the soil here, and I'm going to get my pot in its container and remove it from the container. Now if you ever have a tree or a plant of any kind in a container and you can't get it out of the pot and you don't want to break the pot, what you can do is turn the pot upside down and tap the rim of the pot onto something firm like a table, and tap, tap, tap. That loosens the pot and away you go. So the next step is to look at my root ball and see how it's going. Is it root bound? Is it all twisted? If it was all twisted in circles, I need to break some of that free. Gently, very gently, breaking some of it free. But in this case, this is a really nice looking root ball. Can't complain about that. There's roots going all over the place. It's a nice looking soil that they've given it actually, so this will just go straight into the hole with no teasing at all. So as I said, I'm going to put it down lower like so. And I'll just give it a wiggle left and right. And that's just going to make sure that root ball sits down firmly. And then what you want to do is have the soil only come up to the surface where the roots are starting to come out of the tree. You don't want to go any higher. There's a grafting point, which is here on my tree. You don't want that grafting point anywhere near the dirt. You definitely don't want it under the dirt. Do not do that ever. So now what I can do is gently backfill my soil around the container, around the roots like this, gently pushing down. Very nice. That was a really good looking root ball. Now you want to make sure the soil goes all the way down around the roots. No air pockets. Air pockets are bad for roots. So make sure you get the soil down there. Another thing you can do is with your fingers, and I advise you to wear gloves in this entire process, is with your fingers, pop your fingers down into the soil like so. And that's just going to help compact it down a little bit more. So I'm just getting that down around the roots. And that's looking really, really good. Now this soil is going to shrink down a little bit into the pot. Just settling over time, as well as the addition of the water. Water is going to make it compact a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit more soil on top. So I've just grabbed a little bit more soil, throw that in, and there we go. It is as simple as that. That is done. Now, because this tree is in a container, I don't need to worry about the direction that I've just planted it. What I mean by that is if I planted this into the ground, I need to be looking at which direction the branches face the sun. It's really important that these trees get as much light as possible. So if planting in the ground, you want to make sure that the branches are facing that sun as best as possible. So you'll turn a tree whichever direction you need to get as much sunlight as possible. With a container, you don't need to worry about that because you can turn this container as much as you want, any way you want. Now, the great thing about growing in containers is that if you're renting and you don't want to put a tree in the ground permanently, put it in a container and take it with you. Small space gardening, you can put it in a small enclosed area. I'm actually going to put mine in here, in this little growing area, in my entertaining area. It's going to be in the pot. And then another great thing is weather. If you're getting really bad frosts or even snow, with a pot like this, you can pull this in and out, protecting it from the weather. It doesn't take much. You can get wheels that actually go under pots, so it makes it a lot easier to move them. Or you can get yourself a trolley and you can put it on the trolley and wheel it around where you like. Mulching this is absolutely important. So let's get some mulch. This is pea straw. I love pea straw. It's a fantastic mulch. Now by mulching, you're going to suppress weeds. You're going to help that temperature in the soil stay a little bit more consistent. You're going to slow down evaporation of the water in the pot. It's going to break down and become organic matter in the long run. It's just really good stuff, and you just have to do it. I do it to all of my pots, most of my garden beds. You just can't go wrong. Now, it's super important when you're mulching a tree like this that you keep the mulch away from the trunk of the tree. You don't want any moisture to sit there permanently and cause rotting. So quite simply, just run your finger around and keep that mulch away from the trunk of the tree. It's simple. The next step is to water this in really deeply. And the good thing about watering at this stage is that you're also wetting this mulch. It's going to make it heavy and it's going to make it sit down on top of the pot and not blow away in the wind. When it comes to fertilizing, I'm not going to fertilize this as I've planted it. What I will do though, is I'll let this water soak in for today, and then I'll come back tomorrow and I'll get some seaweed solution that's been diluted nicely according to the instructions on the container, and I'll give this a nice feed of seaweed solution that's going to settle in nicely, and it's going to help with root shock, because this poor old thing has just gone from one pot to another and had this big bloke with a beard handle it a bit. So let's give it some seaweed solution, make it happy and relax and enjoy its new home. When I'm watering in that seaweed solution, I also give a little sprinkle of a citrus-specific fertilizer. Not much. It's a dry fertilizer that is going to seep down slowly into the soil the next few times you water your plant, and that's going to slowly feed the plant over time. Now do check the base of the tree for any growth that comes out below the graft. Just down here, you don't want to have any growth because this is a separate tree to the one on top of the graft. The top section is actually the species of tree you want. That's going to give you the fruit you want. The bottom section of the graft is a really strong species that they've picked that's going to grow well and survive well in the ground or containers and give the tree a healthy time of its life. Unfortunately, the growth that comes from the bottom rootstock can try to become dominant, so make sure if you see anything, you pick them off straight away, and you should have a nice healthy tree growing the limes, oranges, lemons that you want. If you like, I've got another planting video on the screen right now. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you in another cooking or gardening video. Bye for now.